Imagine this. Yesterday, a conversation became tense. Today, your messages are read but unanswered. At home, the person you care about walks past you as if the room is empty. No explanation, no ending, just silence. At first, you wait. Then you replay every sentence. You search for the exact moment you went wrong. Hours later, you're apologizing for things you do not fully understand. Not because the conflict has been resolved, but because the uncertainty has become unbearable. Silence can mean many things: rest, overwhelm, fear, reflection, or a boundary. But when connection is deliberately withheld to punish you or force compliance, silence stops being the absence of communication. It becomes communication through pressure. One quiet evening is not proof that someone is manipulating you. People withdraw for different reasons. Some need time to regulate intense emotions. Some are trying to prevent an argument from getting worse. In unsafe situations, distance or no contact may be necessary protection. The difference is not simply whether someone stops talking. The difference is what the silence is designed to do and what happens around it. A healthy pause usually contains three things: an explanation, a time boundary, and a return. It sounds like, "I am too overwhelmed to talk well right now. I need an hour. I will come back at 8. Punitive silence removes those three things. There is no explanation, no agreed time, and no reliable return. Communication resumes only when the other person has worried enough, apologized enough, or surrendered enough. Psychologists often study being ignored and excluded under the term ostracism. A major review by social psychologist Kipling Williams found that even brief episodes of ostracism can produce distress, sadness, and anger, while threatening 4 basic psychological needs. The first is belonging. Do I still have a place here? The second is self-esteem. Am I being ignored because there is something wrong with me? The third is control. Is there anything I can do to change what is happening? And the fourth is meaningful existence. Do I matter enough to be acknowledged? This is why silence can feel louder than an argument. An argument gives you information. It may be painful information, but at least there is something to respond to. Ambiguous silence gives you almost nothing. Your mind begins producing explanations on its own, and anxious explanations are rarely kind. The reaction does not mean a person is weak or too sensitive. Human beings are built to monitor signs of social connection and exclusion. Being cut off from an important relationship can register as a serious threat, even when no word is spoken. You may have heard the claim that social rejection is exactly the same as physical pain. That is too simple. In a well-known 2003 fMRI study, participants played a virtual ball tossing game and were eventually excluded. During exclusion, activity increased in the anterior cingulate cortex, and that activity was associated with the distress participants reported. The study suggested that social exclusion and physical pain involve some overlapping neural systems. But overlap does not mean that being ignored is literally identical to being physically injured. Brain regions can participate in more than one process. The careful conclusion is this: social exclusion is not imaginary, and the brain treats it as psychologically significant. We do not need to exaggerate the science to understand why prolonged rejection can hurt. The engine of punitive silence is uncertainty. When someone refuses to explain what is happening, the target often becomes an investigator. Was it the message? The tone? The joke? The person checks the phone, studies facial expressions, rewrites old conversations, and sends one more apology. That search can quietly move the entire relationship around one person's approval. The question is no longer, what actually happened between us? It becomes, what do I have to do to restore contact? If communication returns only after the target gives in, a learning loop can form. One person learns that withdrawal creates leverage. The other learns that abandoning their own position restores connection. This is not always a conscious master plan. Human behavior can become controlling without someone sitting down and designing a strategy. What matters is the repeated pattern and its effect. Disagreement is punished with disconnection, and connection is offered back as a reward for compliance. Over time, the target may begin to pre-edit themselves, avoiding topics, softening reasonable boundaries, or taking responsibility for conflicts they did not create. The silence has ended, but the control can remain. Relationship researchers describe a related pattern called demand-withdraw communication. One person pushes for discussion, change, or resolution. The other avoids, shuts down, or leaves. The more one pursues, the more the other withdraws. The more the other withdraws, the more urgently the first person pursues. Research has linked this cycle with relationship distress and conflicts that are harder to resolve. It is also not a simple story in which one gender always demands and another always withdraws. In home-based research with couples, both versions of the pattern occurred. This matters because withdrawal can begin as emotional overload, fear, or poor conflict skills, not necessarily a wish to dominate. A defensive retreat and punitive silence may look similar from across the room, but the surrounding behavior tells a different story. Does the person communicate a need for space? Do they return when they said they would? Can both people speak without retaliation? Or does contact return only after one person submits? Motive matters, so do impact and repetition. Instead of trying to diagnose someone, look for a pattern. Ask 5 questions. 1. Did they clearly say they needed space? 2. Was there an agreed time to reconnect? 3. Can you disagree without affection, access, or basic acknowledgement being removed? 4. Does communication resume only after you apologize, comply, or abandon your position? 5. Is this repeated whenever the other person feels challenged? No single answer proves emotional abuse. Context matters. A few hours of quiet after a difficult argument is not the same as days of deliberate exclusion. A safety boundary is not a punishment, and a person who struggles to communicate may need skills, not a label. The warning sign is a repeated combination: ambiguity, punishment, conditional reconnection, and growing fear of speaking honestly. If this pattern is happening, your first task is not to find the perfect apology. It is to make the communication standard clear. You can say, "I am willing to talk when we can communicate respectfully. If you need space, please tell me, and tell me when you plan to return. I will not keep guessing." Then, give the situation room. After one clear invitation, avoid sending a flood of messages or apologies for things you do not believe you did. This is not about winning a game of silence. It is about refusing to make basic communication something you must purchase with panic. If the pattern repeats, keep a private record of what happened, how long the silence lasted, what was said before it began, and what caused communication to return. A record can help you see the pattern more clearly, especially when every episode feels confusing in isolation. Speak with someone grounded, a trusted friend, counselor, or qualified mental health professional who can help you evaluate the wider relationship rather than one dramatic moment. And if silence is part of a larger pattern of intimidation, threats, monitoring, financial control, isolation, or retaliation, prioritize safety over confrontation. Local support services can help you think through options without forcing you into a decision. You do not need to diagnose another person to set a boundary. You only need to notice what repeated behavior is doing to your ability to think, speak, and choose freely. Silence can be peace. It can be protection. It can be the space where people calm down and return with better words. It can also be punishment. The difference is not the number of decibels. It is whether the distance is explained, limited, and followed by repair, or whether connection returns only after surrender. Healthy distance says, "I need time, and I will come back." Control says nothing and waits for you to disappear inside the uncertainty. This is the silent pulse, the psychology of hidden control without the myths. Subscribe for the next documentary